Hello everyone, it's Joe here with Joe's Salamanders. And if everything goes according to plans, this will be my first official YouTube video. I've been wanting to set up a YouTube channel for a long time. I actually had one a few years ago that I kind of goofed around with but didn't do anything serious with. But now that I'm breeding salamanders and I got some really cool projects going on here, I thought that I would share what I'm doing with you. Maybe some of you can learn how to breed salamanders and raise them and take care of them the way I do. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy. So we're gonna get started. First thing I start with is here. All the water I take out of the tap goes in here. I let that age for a day or two, and then I move it over to here. And this is where I collect all my water for water changes. This is like about 50 gallons, this big Rubbermaid tub. And I have a lot of Daphne in there. I've been harvesting Daphne from outside and encouraging it to grow in here. I got a light on and a heater in there, and sometimes I feed them green water, but this is my first source for Daphne. At least it was. Now that the Daphne is blooming outside in the pond really good, I've been collecting a lot of Daphne from the pond, but housing the Daphne in here and encouraging it to grow in here gives me several layers in case one layer fails. And it's also really good for cycling the water and assuring the cleanest water. When I do water changes, I always want to make sure the water in here is settled. Now it's a little cloudy, but it'll be crystal clear after I've let it sit for long enough. And I always take water off the very top. Your cleanest water is going to be off the very top, and that's going to have the less amount of particles and heavy matter in it. So moving on over to here, I'll show you what my egg enclosures look like. These are crested new eggs, and I actually got a few of them hanging out there in the water. They're a little above the water. I'm gonna have to put some water in here after this video. Those two right there, it looks like, but they'll be fine. Some of them are more developed than others. I got a couple that look like little beans in here. That one right there actually looks like kind of like a little bean. If I can get that one to focus. But I hope you guys can see that. So these guys are still laying. I've been collecting them. They lay a lot of eggs. And over here, these are tiger salamander eggs. Now typically, these guys, I would keep them in a container like this, but I'm low on space, and this is where they're gonna move next after they hatch. And these guys started hatching, so I already took them out of their smaller tub, and now they're set up in here. You actually see one right there. There's a couple of them in there. But I'll keep them in here for the first couple days as they hatch. Keep an eye on them, make sure none of them are dying. I got this stocked up really good with Daphne. And these are Western tiger salamanders, by the way. I live in North Carolina, and it's not legal to work with the Eastern tiger salamanders because they're protected in this state. So these are the Western tiger salamanders. They're sourced from out west around the, probably I'd say Colorado, Washington, anywhere from Colorado to Washington, Oregon type area. But they are more endemic species. They're very sporadic. They are the Ambystoma mavorium melanisticum for anybody who's interested in the scientific name. This is my second year breeding these guys. And I'm just thrilled because we are having a great year. I've got a lot of babies, and this is the best year I've had so far, actually, folks. Moving down here, I've got some rib newts. These guys are a little bigger. There's rib newts in here. I don't know if we're gonna be able to see any. There's some right there. Forgive me for the calcification on the side of the tank. I could probably clean these tanks a little better, but I don't really use them for display tanks. They're for breeding. So these are more rib newts right here. And moving on over here, I got four tubs and one 30-gallon aquarium. And I got about 70 oxalotls altogether in there. So kind of see the process, how it moves and escalates from one step to another. We start off with the eggs, then I move into a hatchery. These 55-gallon long tanks make great hatcheries. And honestly, folks, I skipped a few things. I could probably do a better job and explain a little more detail. So I'm gonna go back and go through this one more time with you and talk to you about a few things that I missed the last time. I was really worried about getting some good footage, but I also want to get some good explanations. So here's a few tricks and things I learned. I prefer to use air tubes for everything. They're easy to work with. They're really easy for setting up and taking down. You can move them around quickly, and they're a lot less maintenance than mechanical pumps. I like to use these bricks. They're really good for holding the tubes in place where you want them. They're also good for holding the eggs in place where you want them. As you can see there, I've created a barrier with the bricks. Now, if those bubbles were hitting the eggs, they could destroy the eggs and dissolve them and kill them. And that's not good for the eggs, so you never want that to happen. So that's something you need to be mindful of if you're trying to raise eggs. Always be careful that your air bubbles aren't going to hit them, because they can actually dissolve them and turn them into mush. I like to stock up on all my enclosures with Daphnia. All of these enclosures will have a good hearty supply of Daphnia when the babies hatch. And that kind of acts as a buffer to keep them all full. And if you can collect enough Daphnia, you honestly don't have to feed them every single day. That's another thing I like about Daphnia, because brine shrimp only live for about an hour in fresh water. And it's a lot of hassle, a lot of maintenance. You got to deal with the shells, cleaning up the shells. I got some live bioactivity going here. As you can see, I got plants. That really helps cycle the water and help keep it clean, help keep it from fouling. I run the lights about 8 hours a day, and that also helps with UV sterilization to a certain degree. It's okay for a little bit of silt like that to get in there. You just want to watch out for dead babies and uneaten food. I've had a really good year so far. I've only collected about 5 dead babies so far out of hundreds of eggs that I've hatched out. Now, I have had some cannibalization. For example, so far I've hatched about 150 eggs, and I've got about 110 babies from that first group of eggs, which were axolotls and rib newts. Now, some other foods that I give these guys are microworms. I really like the white potting worms. I'm trying to think of the name. I can't remember the scientific name, but they're called potting worms. They're really, really small little white worms. You can look up white worms or potting worms. And one of the things I like about those is that they live in the water for several days. They don't die right away when you put them in there. So they're not going to foul your water. It's a good live food. The baby salamanders love them. The baby newts do too. And live food is the best way to go, in my opinion. Bloodworms is another great food that you can use, and it's an easily available food because it's frozen. And you got to wait for them to get a little bit bigger. They're too small to eat the bloodworms when they first hatch, but you can use bloodworms to raise them once they're big enough to eat the bloodworms. Trying to think of anything else I might want to contribute to this. All I really wanted to go through for this first video was how I hatch these guys out. I think I've pretty much covered everything. I don't want to go too much into other topics because that can be saved for other content. I can show you what these guys look like. These guys are about a month old, just to give you an example. These are baby axolotls. I got about 15 of these guys in each tub down here on the ground. But yeah, I could get that stuff out with a turkey baster. I'm not done cleaning these enclosures out. There's a little bit of detritus in the bottom there, but that's not really hurting anything. As long as there's not any kind of uneaten food or, you know, lots of stuff gets in from outside, especially when I'm harvesting Daphnia from outside. But you just got to be careful. Make sure you don't smell any odors. That's something you want to look out for. You know, you don't want your water to foul. I do water changes every day this time of year when I have a bunch of babies like this. Mostly because these enclosures here are just temporary. These are only meant to hold these guys from the time I raise them until I sell them. So, or until they get big enough to where I move them somewhere else. I do have the ponds outside, and those are always growing. I'm getting ready to put another pond in, but that will also be another video. So I think that covers everything for raising the salamanders from babies to from eggs to babies. I hope you enjoy the video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And ask me a question. If you have any questions in the comments, don't hesitate to leave a question. I'd love to answer any questions you got. Thank you.